Hello everyone and welcome back to the short Sousse Interzonal saga of 1967 where we have a game from round 6, Lubomir Kavalek versus Robert James Fischer. And Kavalek, much like some other players in this event, also got his international and grandmaster title either a year prior to this event or he got both of them in 1965. This is played in 1967. But interestingly, this is his only a game ever played against Bobby Fischer. And it's a really nice one. I doubt you've seen it, but okay. I mean, you guys have such vast knowledge that anything is possible. It will feature a very, very cool positive video moment, one that even Bobby Fischer could not solve over the board. Whether that's whether the cameras are to blame or the cameraman or the photographer, whatever you wanna call him. That's for you guys to decide, but the game itself remains. So Lubomir Kavalek, up until 1970, he represented Czechoslovakia. After 1971, he represented the United States. He also won the Czechoslovakian Championship 2 times. Also, he is a 3 times US champion. And yeah, I mean, all in all, a very strong player. But like all of them, now he faces Bobby Fischer. Let's check it out. And interestingly, he has defeated many strong players throughout his career. In 1970, he even defeated Anatoly Karpov, the 19-year-old Anatoly Karpov. And 19-year-old Anatoly Karpov was also a monster. He was one of the seconding Boris Spassky during his World Chess Championship match against Bobby Fischer. So I can even show you the final standings of that event. So look at this. This is 1970. So 3 years after this game was played, Lubomir Kavalek defeated everyone and he won first place with 13 out of 17, taking a point from Anatoly Karpov, who, due to the loss, got 5th place. He finished with 11 out of 15. But yeah, ahead of Leonid Stein, Oskar Panov, Borislav Ivko, Anatoly Karpov, Paul Benko, Bruno Parma. I mean, those are incredible players. Just showing you that Kavalek was no pushover. He's a very strong player. So let's check it out. Kavalek with white opens with pawn to e4. Fischer replies with c5. He goes for the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6, and pawn to d4. We have captures, knight to f6, knight to c3, and pawn to a6. The Najdorf variation is on the board. Bishop to g5, challenging to a classical setup, and now pawn to e6 by Fischer, pawn to f4, and Fischer's favorite at the time, queen to b6. This is the poisoned pawn variation, or rather opting for the poisoned pawn variation if white offers it, but it is absolutely best to offer the pawn. So queen to d2, and Fischer captures the pawn. Later on, you can see that Bent Larsen even said that it is so risky for black that it is madness to play it without a lot of homework. But Fischer knows it well, and to me, it is madness to play this pawn sacrifice against him. So let's see if Lubomir Kavalek is a madman, or did he also do his homework. Here he plays rook to b1. If you guys remember from the Bobby Fischer saga, in game 11 of Fischer's game against his World Chess Championship game against Boris Spassky, Spassky played knight to b3 here first, and he won a beautiful game against Bobby Fischer. But here rook to b1, attacking the queen. We have queen to a3, and now we have pawn to f5, advancing the pawn. Here, Kavalek says that at this point, Fischer requested more lights and eventually moved to a different, we moved to a different table, and 2 more lamps were brought in. After that interlude, our concentration was fully on the game. So f5, we have knight to c6, and now f captures on e6. We have f captures, knight captures on c6, b captures, and pawn to e5. So this is how it was played back then, and this is exactly how it's played nowadays. It's still played, and many strong grandmasters still try to find hidden poison in this poison pawn variation, even though most of these skirmishes end in a draw. We have d captures on e5, bishop captures on f6, g captures, and knight to e4. Of course, going for knight to d6 check if possible. For the moment, it's defended by the bishop and by the queen, but the pawn on f6 is hanging. So bishop to e7 by Fischer, and bishop to e2 by Lubomir. We have, of course, you want to stop bishop to h5 check, so pawn to h5, and now Again, like I said, this position is still played nowadays. Only nowadays, top moves are rook to f1 and also rook to b3. So just to give you an example of how it's played today, let's say rook to f1, pawn to f5. You will play rook to f3, attack the black queen. The black queen will capture on a2. You will bring the rook here, sacrifice the knight, which is similar to what Fischer did in this game. F captures on e4, or rather, what Kavalek did in this game. Queen to c3, now putting pressure on the e5 pawn, and now bishop to d8. Queen captures on c6 with check. Okay, the rook is offered, so you will give it back. Bishop to d7, queen captures on a8, and now queen captures on c2. Queen captures on a6, and now just castles king side. And if rook to g3 with check, you'll play king to h8, now rook to d1, and it's still a fun position. White is up the exchange, but black has two extra pawns. All in all, this is a draw, and it can be drawn out in many different ways. But after this pawn to h5 move by Fischer, Lubomir played pawn to c4. And this is now much different. As you'll see, the c-pawn will not be a target later on, and perhaps c5 can be played, creating a permanent outpost for the knight on d6. So how can Fischer reply to this c4 move? He plays pawn to f5. It's the strongest move by far. Rook to b3, attacking Fischer's queen. Queen to a4, the only move for black. And now castles king side. Lubomir said after the game that he did consider knight to d6 check, and after this trade, let's say queen to a5 check. But the problem is, after king to f2, rook to a7, there's no follow-up for white. Whatever you try, it's insufficient. You can capture the pawn on c6, but after king e7, even pawn to c5, queen to c7, and all of your problems are still there. You're down material, and you don't have a better move than to trade queens. Or you go something like queen to b6, rook to b7. So you might as well trade queens here, captures, but you're down a pawn, and the passed c-pawn is also hanging. So that's the problem. So after queen to a4, Lubomir decided to castle king side, and now Fischer played pawn captures on e4. So Lubomir sacrificed the knight, and Fischer had to triple his pawns in order to capture it, but he has to do it if he is to continue. We have queen to c3, a bit different from the modern line where the pawn is no longer on c4, where you would be attacking both of these. But okay, queen captures on a2, and now comes bishop to d1. And Fischer's position is now completely winning, but Bobby did not find the solution in the game. He did find it after the game, and he showed it to Kavalek, and they discussed it a little bit, but yeah. He did not find it over the board. So feel free to pause the video and try to figure it out what Fischer missed here, and was it really the photographers that made him miss it? Have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this brilliancy. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to g8. In the game, Fischer played rook to f8, but it's actually rook to g8. Or you can give a check first and then bring the rook to g8. To give you an example, and this is exactly the line that Fischer showed Kavalek after the game. Bishop to c5 check, king to h1, and now rook to f8. There's nothing more that you can do here. For example, bishop captures on h5 check, king to d8, rook to d1 check, bishop to d7, and that's all there is. If you play rook to b7 now, there's the very tricky bishop d4, and that's it. You don't have any counterplay, but also after bishop d1, you can just go for rook to g8. You threaten checkmate. Perhaps Fischer saw this, but he did not discuss it with Kavalek. Now the idea is that after a check, or you could play pawn to g3, but then the rook comes to g5 and the e5 pawn is defended. But here, yeah, king to d8, you're going to play rook to d1 check, bishop to d7, only move, you have to play it, otherwise you're getting destroyed here. The rooks are controlling the b and d file, the bishop controls the e8, and if you go to c7, queen captures on e5 check will be game over. So bishop d7, your only move, and now you don't have a good follow-up. For example, you go after the black queen, queen a3, the bishop covers a3, if rook b3, now queen c5 check, and after king h1 you get the king to c7, you don't have rook b7. That's all there is to it. So yeah, after bishop to d1, rook to g8, or bishop to c5 check followed by rook to f8, both works, but Fischer obviously missed it, as he himself says, due to the photographers. He went for the line that wasn't working. Rook to f8, and now bishop captures on h5 with check. King to d8, rook to d1 with check, bishop to d7, but now there is queen to e3. And this is the problem. You now have access to b6, and also you prevent queen to f2 check, which was kind of Fischer's idea with rook to f8. Queen to f2 check, king h1, and then just you sacrifice the queen for a nice checkmate. Captures, and that would be checkmate. With the queen on e3, that is no longer possible. So Fischer plays queen to a5, and now comes rook to b7. And this is the problem. And rook to b7 is the only move that saves the game for Kavalek, because if you try king h1 to avoid any trickery, then the king comes to c7, and you no longer have rook b7, which is basically your only counterplay. So after queen to a5, rook to b7 was played, and now you don't have a way of continuing the game. Also one of the reasons Fischer played queen to a5 was to prepare the very nice skewer here. You will lose the queen, but Kavalek has at least a draw. Bishop to c5, rook d captures on d7 with check, king to c8, and now rook d to c7 with check, king to d8, and he was in the, okay, rook d7 check, and he was in this position on move 28 that Lubomir Kavalek and Bobby Fischer agreed to a draw. As there's nothing more to be done here, it will be a draw by threefold repetition. And if Fischer decided to, let's say, capture the rook with the queen and grab the two rooks, now the bishop is hanging. That's the problem. Now it's queen and bishop versus the two rooks, and Kavalek would be completely winning here. So yeah, very, very adventurous play by Kavalek, sacrificing a piece against the great Bobby Fischer and getting away with it. Yeah, very nicely done. And at the end of the game, Fischer had 8 minutes on the clock. Kavalek had 13 minutes on the clock. So there was some discussion, maybe to go in, maybe continue the game somehow, maybe try to outblitz Fischer, but Kavalek decided not to do it. And also, I've found a very interesting piece of information. According to an article in the South African Chess Player, the SAC magazine, and reported by Grandmaster Alexander Matanovic, the photographer was the official photographer for the Soviet embassy in Tunis. Fischer stopped the clock on this game and demanded that the photographer leave the playing hall before Fischer would resume his game. The director of the event refused and restarted Fischer's clock. Fischer argued for 30 minutes before agreeing to continue his game. Fischer soon got into time trouble, and the editor of the SAC added a note at the end of the article writing, "One cannot help the feeling that Fischer missed the best continuation as a result of the disturbance caused by the photographer." Well, I mean, we could say a lot of things now, but yeah, I mean, if he has time on the clock and this is the position, I mean, Fischer, could we really imagine Fischer missing bishop to c5 and rook to g8? So it's not like it's a unique winning move. There are more winning ideas here. It's hard to say whether he would choose rook to f8 without the photographer there. Who knows? All in all, after that, Fischer really didn't like photographers, and well, those of you who have seen my Bobby Fischer saga know what a journey it's been with Bobby and his struggle against the photographers and the media and everything that is not related to the chessboard itself. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Big congratulations to Lubomir Kavalek on this great achievement. His only ever game against Bobby Fischer ends in a draw. But yeah, like I said, in 1970, he will win a great tournament. He will finish first ahead of great names, and he will defeat a very much informed Anatoly Karpov. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and this short coverage of the Sousse Interzonal tournament 1967. We are almost at the end, and then we are going to discuss everything that happened and why Fischer finally decided to leave and not finish the tournament. That's the game. Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Adam Simmons, Colin Williams, Ricardo Paulin, Bruce Mark Martin, and James Eugene Cashman for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. To really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.